Hello everyone and welcome back to another Pony and Wolf Productions video. My name is visualbrony and today we are reading The Gathering by Bad Horse. The short description kinda I found it a little bit intriguing, it reads, "In the stars 100 years journey away the alicorns gather to mourn, to mate, and to give birth to the new. They call to their sisters across the galaxies and Celestia hears them. Meanwhile, Dotted Line wants her to review tax rebate applications." I find that interesting as a premise, and I'm certainly interested to see where this is going. As always, I will discover this story together with you. I have not read it before, and I must ask you if you haven't already, or would be honored if today would be the day that we earned your subscription. The Invitation. In the stars, the alicorns were gathering.
"Sisters, come! In the heart of Virgo, we sing the 1,000-year death song for a fading galaxy. We shall gather its embers and bank them in the black hole at its core."
And then we come to the water service fee, Dotted Line said, turning another page. Celestia blinked away the image of her sisters glowing like flames against an infinite velvet blackness. The cabinet secretary's office seemed, by comparison, a sketch in grey pencil. The stack of neatly lettered reports and ordinances managed to smell musty despite having all been written in the past 2 weeks. "Very controversial," the secretary continued. "We charge per acre, as you know. Last year in Appaloosa, Flinthide Hayseed planted 3 acres of tomatoes." Celestia nodded. "Good farmer Hayseed, he's featured in several of our reports."
We shall circle its fatal horizon and bathe in its death glow. We will sing the song of making as we dive into its gravity well. We shall meet at its center and rekindle its fires, and a new galaxy shall be born. Join us, Elder!"
Dotted grunted discreetly. "Tomatoes, you see, use a lot of water. Not really suitable for an arid land like Appaloosa."
"Come, my lovely white dove. I remember when you danced the death of Etta Karine. How your mane whipped in the solar wind as your hoofs spread its heart across 100 stars."
"The tomatoes all die, of course. Hayseed said he just wants to get his money's worth."
"No mare's laughter ever made the stars twinkle so brightly as yours did then."
"Flinthide Hayseed was never a very popular pony. I say that's the way I would say a manticore isn't a very popular dinner guest." Dotted pulled a form from several pages further down and held it out for her inspection. But the trouble really started when he filed for a drought relief reimbursement for his dead tomatoes.
"Hold in your brilliance no longer. Let me see your pelt glow like the furnace at the heart of Mousse Cephei. Let me gaze into your eyes, lit with the light of 100 suns, while I breathe down your neck from behind and hold you tight while 1,000 novas burst within us."
"Your Highness, are you quite alright? We can do this later." Celestia shook her head, not so daintily as might be expected of a princess.
"No,"
she said, smiling.
"I'm fine, just a bit distracted."
She took a deep breath.
"Tell good Yeoman Hayseed that we will grant him a reimbursement for the expected value of his tomato crop, given the environmental condition, if justified by a Form SF-3553 explanation of peculiar circumstances."
Dotted inhaled sharply. "An SF-3553? Isn't that a bit drastic?" Celestia nodded firmly.
Yes it is."
"I have faith, as always, in your judgment, Your Highness, but you help us if Flinthide turns out to be the pony who can actually finish the thing." Dotted flipped the utility reports over onto the growing stack of finished items. He wrote a note, clipped it to the Hayseed's reimbursement application, and put Z in a search pile. He cleared his throat. Now, as regards the upcoming gala, I have a petition here signed by 73 members of the nobility to find a more secure location for this year's festivities.
Come drift with us. Remember all, then forget it. Forget yourself. Forget the borders between minds and drift. Feel, see, be.
Reassure them that we shall, Celestia said with a slight smile. The only location more secure than the royal palace is the royal dungeons, Dotted observed. Celestia shrugged innocently.
Come, fly between Regal and Orion's belt, out through the purest deep space. Pull up when you reach the great hydrogen clouds. You can be here in 100 years.
Dotted clipped a note to the petition and put it in the third pile. Now my favorite. The Recommendation Committee's annual report on the Advisory Committee's annual report on the prior year's activities of the Recommendation Committee. He dropped a bound folio onto the desk before them with a bang. It was thicker than the Canterlot address directory. Celestia's shoulders sagged as she stretched her neck out towards the folio. Then she abruptly sat down on the floor behind the cabinet secretary's desk and looked up at the ceiling. When it became apparent that this was not some momentary stretch or calisthenic maneuver, Dotted diplomatically pushed his chair out of the way, sat down beside her, and looked at another, nearby spot on the ceiling. It was probably overdue for inspection anyway. They sat there in silence while the light from the lantern flickered on the wall.
Secretary Line,
Celestia said.
I would like a hug.
Dotted blinked. Your Highness?
A hug. I understand it is a thing ponies do.
Dotted coughed. Ponies in general, yes. Celestia did not reply. Is that an order, Your Highness?
No.
Dotted stood up and tiptoed around to face Celestia. He had spent much of his life with Celestia, but never before come within a hoofspan of her muzzle. He reached up and put his forelegs stiffly around Celestia's shoulders, his eyes shut tight. Celestia inclined her neck until it brushed up against his, then reached up and pulled him against her, squeezing him in a grip like that of a Stalingrad High Commissioner. Dotted's eyes opened in shock. Slowly, his face relaxed into a secret smile, and while the lamplight danced across tax forms and alicorns circled distant stars, the Princess of the Sun and her cabinet secretary gave each other an awkward, yet perhaps not altogether unbearable hug. The princess let go, and Dotted slid back to the floor and took 2 steps back. He quickly turned back towards his desk, but before he could resume his discussion of the committee report, she said, Thank you, Dotted. Dotted mumbled incoherently. Celestia laid a hoof on top of the thick report. Before we return to the agenda, I want you to fill out a form GR-17. Recommendation for recognition. Write action/honor/award. Pendant of the Sun. Recipient Dotted Line. Then forward it to me for approval. Dotted pulled his eyebrows together. The Pendant of the Sun is for heroism in the defense of Equestria.
It would have taken you less courage to lead a charge into battle, she said, and done less to defend Equestria. Hide it in your bottom desk drawer with the rest of your awards if you must, but you will take it. She opens the report to its cover page. Now, about these committees. What do they even do?
Celestia leaned forward to inspect the report. Dotted grasped eagerly at the familiar bureaucratic language. Out past the constellations, the alicorns continued to gather. Hello and welcome back to Common Thomas Visual Pony, where I will remind you that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links down in the description below. Every dollar helps, is needed and very much appreciated. And it helps to keep the lights on around here, because without lights and without electricity I cannot record, because computers need electricity and I need light to see. So now let's get into the meat of the story, because I find this really, really interesting, especially the end here. Okay, so let me get into this. No, really, I find this really, really interesting, especially the end here where she's telling him to get the pendant of the sun. And apparently it's an award for heroism in defense of Equestria. I can kinda see her logic here, because she is longing to go. She's longing to go there. And to be fair, I'm fairly certain that at least part of this was another Alicorn telling her to come there so she could get laid. Yeah. Yeah, I think Celestia would deserve that, but still. Anyhow, I am Visual Pony. I hope that you enjoyed this story, and that this story finds you well in body and mind.